Just for clarification, this is not going to be a gameplay video whatsoever, and all I want to say is, this is an explanation about, a little bit of backstory, and on top of why I'm so in love with Behemoth. Now, you've probably never seen me run this setup in particular, and the reason for that is because I kind of retired this a long time ago. But when Behemoth first came out, they sunset all my current weapons, except for, of course, Foulwinter's Lie. They got rid of Beloved, they got rid of my spare ration, and at the moment I didn't know what to do. What I didn't know was the season after they're gonna release something called Dead Man's Tale, which would later become my most used weapon in PvP. And at the time, what I chose to do was I chose to start using something like Chaperone. But the problem was, I didn't really have anything to pair it up with because they sunset Not Forgotten, which again was another weapon I used to use. So I had to figure out which weapon I should change to, and of course, like every other person, I went over to Dire Promise. Now this is not my actual Dire Promise that I used to use, but I used Dire Promise a lot. And I think the game was in a really awkward state, but the main subject about this video is going to be about the build itself and the subclass I choose to play with and constantly coming back to. Now, if you pay attention to trial statistics, Behemoth is the least played subclass in the whole game. And when I say that, I really mean the least played, with a 0.6 usage overall from every single subclass of usage. Behemoth is at the bottom with a 0.6. There's even more Solar Titans and even more Strand Titans. But I think it comes back to, at the end of the day, why do so little people choose to play Behemoth when there's a lot of people who hate the class? They have an absolute hatred towards it. And of course, for all the backstory with this subclass, and it doesn't really have any this meta best subclass. I do understand why so little people play it. A lot of people have a hatred towards something like Whisper of Rhyme, and I can completely understand that after all the controversies it's been through. First of all, when it came out, you couldn't even one-shot people with an aggressive frame sniper that they had. When stream snipers started coming around in a heavy period, there was just people using the tank build, which would be triple Rhyme Titans with Howl of the Storm and Tectonic Harvest. And literally all they would do for the whole game is just bunker up and become immune. I mean, Bungie nerfed Rhyme already once. They made it so the damage reduction wasn't so incredibly dumb. But at the same time, the thing that always keeps me coming back to Behemoth is something a lot of subclasses don't have. I've found recreation in the same playstyle almost in Strand Hunter, and it's the fact that you can just run at people. Here, take this clip for example.
Girls on Hunter.
Yes!
Oh my god, did you get the freeze up?
That's what a perfect round of trials would look like for me, and that's what I always try to do when I'm on Behemoth. I love the middle pieces of this subclass. I love the fragment sections and the aspect slots of this subclass in particular. But I really do hate the super. The super is sluggish. When you pop it, there's such a big risk to getting killed. Super overall, once you get it going, you can track super easily. If you are in cover, you can easily freeze people around walls. But if you are in the open and trying to get to someone, you're such an easy target compared to other supers. It kind of has the same effect as a Strand Hunter does. If it works, it's going to work really well. If it doesn't work, it's going to be really bad. And I think that's why I always find those two subclasses similar. Behemoth was really broken on launch. When Beyond Light came out, it was the first time we saw something like this, the subclass 3.0 system as we call it. And with the few selections we had of subclasses, we got Cryoclasm, and the slide was unbelievably long. You could slide across the map, and you could pair that with Antaea's wards and, be a god. Or you could shatter your grenade and freeze people with it, and the burst would do incredible damage. I'm pretty sure most people can recall back to the Shatter Dive meta, as we used to be in. And the Behemoth super itself was really, really obnoxious. It would lunge towards you across the map like no other super. It would tank aggressive frame snipes to the head. When you pop the super, you would freeze your enemy's surrounding. So you could freeze people through walls. You heard me. You were able to freeze people through walls. And they slowly but surely settled back on Behemoth to make it a more balanced subclass. But at the same time, they killed off everyone who plays it, because why play a high risk and high reward subclass when you can play something like a low risk, low reward subclass like Void? Void allows you to get Devour. It gives you overshield off kills. It has the best super for a competitive base game mode like Trials. And it has free overshield just by placing down your barricade. With something like Stasis, of course this heals you at the same time, but you have to be destroying crystals to get Rhyme to proc. If not, you're not gonna get the overshield whatsoever. And especially when we have something like Striker Titan, which also has low risk, high reward, as I like to call it. It has Juggernaut, which gives you a shield just by running in a straight line. Touch of Thunder, which will literally jolt your enemies by just hitting them with a lightning grenade. And on top of that, you have Knockout, which heals you off melee kills. And once you proc Knockout, you get a bigger lunge, you deal more melee damage, and it's just really good. Now, Behemoth has a trick up its sleeve, and I think this is also why I like to play so aggressive with it. Shiver Strike. Now, Shiver Strike is the only melee in the game that I can say consistently one-shot. And if you don't know about the Shiver Strike method, you can lunge at someone with the melee, and as soon as you hit them, you just spam your melee, and you will lunge and melee them instantly right after. Bungie has tried to fix it by nerfing its stasis melee range, but at the same time they have not fixed it, because with poor connections it's really easy to do so. In a perfect world where everyone has, one ping between each other, this is not going to happen. There's no shot people are going to be able to double hit with Shiver Strike. But since the servers are bad, we play on like 30 hertz servers or whatever, I can't remember the number, but someone told me we play on like crazy bad servers. It's so easy to proc something like Shiver Strike and do the double melee. But the reason I like this subclass is because of how well it plays in together and how you can make the aspects pair with the fragments so well. I use glacier grenades, and the way I use my glacier grenades is by aggressively pushing in my nade. I would throw it in front of me to make a barrier for myself that I would slide through and use Whisper of Fissures. Increase the damage and size of bursts of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. And it deals an incredible amount of damage, and I've plenty of times gotten kills I didn't even know I would have gotten if I didn't just slide through the thing blindfully. Of course, I am prepared. I usually run like PK SMG with it. But you know what? Today when I go and stream, I'm gonna be playing around with Dude Marchers and Deadman's Tale Fun Hunter like I used to back in the old days. Take a little nostalgia trip back. On top of that, I paired it with Stasis of Shards. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional crystals increase the duration of this benefit, which will literally just give me a boost to grenade energy, so I keep getting it back faster every time I slide through my crystal, which is really good. On top of that, I paired it with Whisper of Chains. While you are near a frozen target or a friendly stasis crystal, you take reduced damage from this target. So while I'm running at it, if someone's trying to shoot me, I will take reduced damage because I'm close to my stasis crystal, which is good. And since I can't run what I usually run, I'm normally on Diamond Lands, but I tried to go more for a nostalgic, Behemoth build. I chose to go with Howl of the Storm. While sliding, activate your melee ability to launch a wave of stasis energy forward that freezes the target and creates stasis crystals. So that's, again, another way for me to, get damage resistance. And on top of that, I can use my Cryoclasm to slide through the crystals and break them instantly. I put on Whisper of Hedrons, dramatically increase weapon stability and aim assist, airborne effectiveness, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing a target with a stasis crystal, which will pair well with Howl of the Storm, because if I push someone, freeze them with the Howl of the Storm, I get, boost in every stat possible. Of course, not intellect, discipline, and strength, but everything else will be boosted. And I just think it's a full circle build, and you can do many more of these. You can go with something like Howl the Storm and Tectonic Harvest, like I mentioned earlier, and then put on Whisper of Rhyme, and now suddenly, by destroying these crystals, you get an overshield. And you can constantly heal if you team up with other players. I don't think this is a very fun way of playing it, because I am more of an aggressive type of player, and I like to, you know, have fast gameplay and, always be doing something. Sitting and waiting is, of course, sometimes the better move, but 99% of the time, I'm going to be running at the enemy and trying to make moves. I don't want to sit inside of a room with my two other teammates just jerking each other off. I just think that's really boring and it's not enjoyable gameplay to me. Of course, you can come with the argument saying, oh, there's no objective game mode in most game modes anyway, so it doesn't really matter. In comp, I don't think you're going to benefit that much, and in trials anymore, I don't think you're going to benefit that much, which is why Behemoth died even more. Because before, there was no objective, now there is, so it's a lot harder for you to proc these chains without getting punished by your enemies. But at the end of the day, I think Behemoth is one of the most fun subclasses in the game, and it's on the same level as Strand Hunter. It's the only reason I play these two subclasses, and if I'm not on my alt account, you will always see me on those if I'm not on Void Titan for meta reasons or Warlock, aka Solar Warlock. But yeah, overall, I think Stasis has some of the most enjoyable gameplay in the whole game, includes Hunter, Titan, and of course Warlock. Now, I would rank Warlock below these two, not because it's, better, but because I just enjoy more of the aggressive type gameplay. Now, I'm not saying you can't play aggressive on Stasis Warlock, because you definitely can, and benefit a lot from just putting on Osteomancy and freezing your enemies over and over. I just think using something like Shatter Dive or Cryoclasm is a lot more fun. It's fast movement. It's, you can maneuver around your enemies ways you usually can't, which is why I rate Behemoth S tier. Of course, take it with a grain of salt because I'm definitely biased towards Behemoth. And at the end of the day, I will just tell you to go Arc Titan for 1v3 clutches or Bubble Titan for easy supers and overshields for your teammates. But at the end of the day, you play what you want to do, and the more diversity we see in the game, the more people who try to explore different ways to play the game, the more enjoyable the game will be for me. I want people to have fun and not just, say, oh, my KD is higher than yours, so my dick is bigger. Because at the end of the day, that's not why I play the game, and that's probably not why you play the game. But everyone is allowed to play the game how they want.